So we're 3 volumes into Love Me Not, and I think Annui's character has finally been revealed. You know, that was the big mystery for me, is who is this Annui boy? But he's just a simple man, you know? He's childish, and he doesn't read signals correctly. So that's his deal. Yeah. I thought there would be more to it, but no.
No, that's not all there is to Inui-kun, but this volume was just, I don't know, airheaded Inui-kun.
This volume was just Akari falls in love with Inui.
Again.
Again. Yeah, you're right, because it already kind of happened before. It's just solidified. It's a thing now. You know, we've got one more spoke on the love quadrangle, you know, really hammered in. That's what we're here for, right?
I guess so.
No, kind of, well, I don't know. Well, I guess you're right. It is, I guess I am reading it for the shoujo romance. But maybe I just didn't want it this way.
No, I think for me it's just I'm less interested in Akari's romance and I'm way more interested in Yuna's romance. So this volume wasn't as interesting for me, but I guess that's okay.
Which I think to me feels a little bit weird, because initially in the story I was very interested in Akari because she was such a counterpoint to Yuna. Like, she was the kind of more practical, straightforward one when it came to romance and love and relationships, and Yuna was the more airheaded, dreamy type, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like in this volume what's happened is that they are both just complete airheads who are in love, who have tunnel vision on these two guys, and I don't know, I guess that's just it.
Yeah, for a moment Akari is trying to, like, go back to her old views of love when she goes on in the group date. But then she just, at the end, she decides that, yeah, I think Yuna was right the whole time, and I'm just in love.
I just never really thought that this would be the conclusion, you know? Or, it's not, because this is only volume 3, but I'm just very surprised that it went in this direction.
No, because I think, you know, Iosaki Saka, the whole time she was trying to find that happy medium between their two methods of love. And I think this is where she stands, where it's like, you have these feelings you can't deny, but you have to make everything happen through your own action. And I think she's trying to show for Akari and Yuna that they have to, yeah, they just have to find that happy medium between their two ways of love.
I wanted there to be 2 ways. I wanted this to be Sense and Sensibility. This is kind of like Sense and Sensibility. Well, no, it's more balanced, I guess. In the end of Sense and Sensibility, it turns out that Sensibility just pretty much won. No, Sense just won. What am I talking about? It turns out that Sense just won.
So not Yuna, Akari won?
But this is like old school England, you know?
Yeah. This ain't modern day Japan.
Yes. No, you're totally right. Like, that is what the author's going for. It's just that the kind of love that they land on is the love that you see in, like, every shoujo manga. Basically, I'm just saying that I feel like the series is losing a little bit of the spark that made it feel a little bit set apart from other series, you know?
Not totally. There are still some great parts. I think the step sibling thing is still going strong, and a lot of Yuna's internal struggle with trying to be friends with Ryo and support him while also being like, yeah, I don't know what Yuna's really thinking about him being in love with Akari, actually.
She's feeling sympathy. Yuna is definitely the most interesting part here, or I think it's one of the more interesting parts, because everyone else's feelings tend to be pretty straightforward, but for her, it's like, because she's really sympathizing with Ryo and she understands how painful it is for him to have to put up this facade and not admit that he likes Akari to kind of, for like family reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's really sympathizing with him and she understands his pain, and she just keeps on returning back to those feelings whenever she talks to him.
But isn't it strange, you know, when they're running the marathon, Yuna tells him to go ahead and go up to Akari because that's what he wants to do, but I don't think even she sees a future in their relationship, right? She's not, like, trying to help him, like, start a relationship with Akari, right? Or is she? I don't know.
That's a good point. I think the reason why we're kind of confused on where she lands is because she's confused too. Like, she wants Rio to do what he wants to do, and
that's as far as she's seeing it, I think. Yeah.
Does she think that their relationship is doomed? That's an interesting question. By doomed, I mean Akari and Rio, because they're family members now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of things to say, but all I need to say is what I feel, which is, to be honest, I didn't really like this volume, and I feel like the story's kind of like stuttering a bit, and it really is just getting mired in these characters' thoughts. Every chapter, it feels like the characters are talking less and less and actually communicating with each other.
Yeah, you just see their monologues, their inner monologues a lot.
Yes, exactly. And it's really frustrating. This is the type of like romance story that's the worst. It's where the characters aren't talking to each other. And it's not that there's like, in some cases there are misunderstandings in the series, but honestly it's just really laboriously breaking down what each of the characters is thinking and kind of like flipping perspectives to each one to see what they're thinking about whatever new situation they're in. Even though the situations aren't really that unique, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I even thought that you brought up before the fact that they went to this group dating scenario, which was a kind of cute setup because it, like you said, it harkens back to Akari being more pragmatic and thinking like, yeah, maybe I'll find someone I like at this group date thing, right? Like, forget about these love feelings for Annui. And Yuna, continuing on with this arc that I really do like about Yuna trying to branch out more and trying to break out of her bubble from being so shy and kind of withdrawn. So they both go to it for those different reasons. But even that, like, it didn't leave that much of an impression on me because nothing changed. The outcome was just that Yuna's still the shy girl who can, strongly speak her mind when she kind of needs to, and Akari just kind of solidified, like, she went in liking Annui and she went out liking Annui. Like, maybe she was a bit more solidified, but that sense of movement in the characters where they were really, like, shifting before our eyes, where Yuna was really, like, evolving into this new kind of person and maturing. I feel like
it's taken a little pause, this volume.
Yeah. And it's just kind of a drag to kind of just see everything play out.
Yeah, it's especially frustrating when you're reading it for the first time, but I've read ahead illegally, and there's so much more that's going to happen, but it happens just like a tad bit too slowly. So yeah, it's frustrating hearing this from you and being like, oh yeah, well, I mean, that kind of gets solved, who knows how many volumes ahead, but there's more to it than it seems right now,
I do want to read this whole series. I actually want to keep on reviewing this whole series to the end because I think even if I don't like it, it's still kind of fun to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of struggling right now. I'm trying to think.
But there's lots of cute scenes. I like the scene where Yuna practices smiling.
When I'm trying to go back and think about scenes that I liked, but I just keep. I'm sorry. I'm being really negative this recording, but it's just how I feel. When Akari comes home and she realizes that Annui just happens to be sleeping in Rio's room because they were hanging out. She creeps on him, she goes and, like, touches his hand, and then that begins the whole hand smelling arc where where she touches his hand and leaves her smell all over him.
I know, isn't that so weird? I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was like, okay, this is really weird. Who like wakes up from a nap and then smells their hand and says, my hand weirdly smells nice? How is that like a plot point?
But it keeps on going, because then later he smells her hand and he never makes the connection because, he's a simple boy. That's his character.
Is it Febreze? Airheaded Inui-kun. I know, and in that scene, Rio is just in the background looking upset.
It's so true. This entire chapter is just Rio looking sad, and then Yuna's like, "Boy, Rio sure does look sad." There's this whole other romance playing out.
Sympathy eyes. Oh.
Her big ol' eyes. Another thing that really frustrated me with Akari and Annui's relationship is the conclusion that Akari comes to at the end between chapters 10 and 11, where Akari is, I feel like she's not acting to her character because she's not just telling him how she feels.
I know.
So Inui's airheaded. He kind of has like a young boy's way of looking at it where he doesn't really seem to kind of pick up on signals that girls are dropping, or maybe he just doesn't think about girls that way yet. It's kind of hard to tell. There's a great little side thought bubble where Akari is like, I mean, he is a boy, right? Like, wouldn't he accept me? He's a teenage boy. Come on. But Akari somehow got it in her head that he just wouldn't like her for some reason.
Doesn't like her? I know. Isn't that so strange? She did say before, it kind of makes sense. She always waited until she knew for sure that the other person had feelings for her. And so I guess everyone else who she's liked in the past has been more direct. But because Inui-kun is so indirect / like airheaded, he isn't putting off enough signals for her to feel okay confessing to him. So it does make sense. It's just frustrating, I guess, is all it is.
I thought she was the more straightforward, practical one. Because when you have a boy like this who's kind of airheaded and doesn't read signals well, the answer is you just have to tell him. And you have to tell him, like, straight, That's the obvious solution. I guess it's irrational to think that this manga would get to that solution, like, immediately, because her love's just starting. Okay, after reading this volume, and being really struck by how much the characters were in their heads, how much of it was just thought bubbles of the characters kind of like monologuing about their emotions, I kind of went on like a reading spree through my manga collection and just picking up random like romance series or series with romance. Should I just list off the ones that I picked up?
Yeah, go for it.
After School Nightmare, Marmalade Boy, Stepping on Roses, Nana, Mysterious Girlfriend X, certain parts of Negima I reread and checked out. And I think that was it. Oh, the ending of Genkaku Picasso. And each of these, through varying degrees, just like some of my favorite romance manga, or have some of my favorite like romantic scenes more. That's what I was kind of flipping through to see. And in all of them, like, the characters are in this constant stream of dialogue because things are actually happening and plot's moving. And there's more to these stories than just the romance. And it's really starting to feel like the story doesn't have much else other than romance at this point. Except for, like, Yuna's character development.
Yeah.
And then Akari and Ryo's family struggles. Like, those are the only third-party elements. Oh, and then, of course, bitchy classmates. That's a real, addition to the series.
Oh my gosh, but...
We're starting another bitchy classmate arc. I can't believe they're doing it again.
It's so funny because they actually toned it down. I was reading the Spanish version, and there's so much meaner. They say like, what the hell are you looking at? Instead of, what are you looking at? In the English version. And I'm like, oh, they just really toned this down a whole lot. I don't know what it's like in the original, but...
Well, were you reading a fan translation? Sometimes fan translators like to go a little bit wacky with the language.
I thought it was great.
They did call Akari a bitch. I was happy about that. I don't know why. That's why I thought it was okay to call them bitchy classmates, because that's what they're being.
And for me, in general, I'm personally annoyed with, like, the passing out, being super frail, like, yeah. And then having a fever. Like, what's up with this? Why is this always... Is this an actual problem in Japan? Is everyone sickly?
It really was like a swooning woman arc. Like, catch me! I can't contain myself.
I'm done with it. Enough of that.
Yeah, there was a lot of, like, fan service that I feel like maybe would appeal more to teenage girls, where Inui and Ryo just strike a cool pose, pretty much.
Oh, wait, no. Okay, but Ryo had some quality in between chapter full page spreads that I love. So I can't even say.
The art's still really good, yeah.
Yeah. There were like two. One where he's like covering half of his face. Yeah. Another one where he's like just standing. Very cool.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But overall, this volume did not look good on Ryo-kun.
Do you remember the scene after the group date where they're just like walking home and then they come across Ryo and Anui just hanging out together and in a McDonald's? And that's just like, that just begins a new scene with them all together. It's this classic shoujo thing where it's like the characters have to keep on intersecting, but it just gets kind of ridiculous.
I mean, they live in the same apartment building, so it can't be that crazy.
I don't know. I'm just imagining, like, you're thinking about someone and then you, like, look into a McDonald's and they're just there. Like, two girls are thinking about two boys and they're just there in the McDonald's.
Pop. Speak of the devils.
I want to give the series, like, a compliment sandwich. I want to say, like, the art's good, but I hated everything. But, you know, that one drawing of Akari was pretty cute, but the bread's so thin, you know? It's not even much of a sandwich at all.
You know, you don't like Inui-kun being, Inui being an airhead, but I kind of thought that the scene where he's talking about how Akari is the only person he's ever brought to that lookout, and then Akari's like, oh, is he like trying to make a move on me? And then she's like, what do you mean by that? And he was like, I mean, I thought I explained it pretty well. You're the only person that I've ever brought there. I thought that was kind of funny.
Your recreation of it was pretty funny. In the moment, I was just like, Akari, just tell him, Akari. Just say something. I also, you know, previously, my understanding of Inui was that he still kind of was a mystery to me, but he was kind of like a heady guy where he thought a lot, and also he was an average runner, which, you know, really comes back.
But is he actually a dum-dum?
Yeah, but then it turns out that he's just kind of airheaded. And I flip back through volumes 1 and 2, and I can see this characterization, but I can also see how I missed it, and maybe it was good that I missed it, because I feel like Akari was trying to understand him too, so the way that the author showed him kind of showed him from Akari's perspective, where he is sort of mysterious and hard to understand. But I feel like I built up in my head that he would be more of an interesting guy, and you've told me that there's more going on with him and he has more of...
Yeah, so you'll just have to wait, really. This whole volume, not enough happened. It just not, besides the last chapter. Is upsetting.
Do I really need to, like, I feel like I just went on a huge rant about the series, and I feel like I just gotta go on another one, which is the kiss out of jealousy trope, where these jealous feelings in Rio have built over the entire chapter. So in a moment of passion, he kisses Akari, and this is going to kickstart the next chapter of drama about their family situation. But I hate this as a trope. Because it's just shorthand to get to the dramatic points that you want to get to, you know? It felt so unnatural.
It really, that's what I thought too. Like, Rio seems like an okay person, and then this just, like, ruined him.
Yeah.
Like, now he's so unlikable, and as I said before, he had some amazing pictures in this volume. And then you're just like, why? Not cool. Like, why you gotta be creep? Why? How come Rio and Akari be creeping in this volume?
Yeah, she did it too. Oh my god, I forgot. I want to put those two images side by side of just her touching Annui's hand and him touching her lips with his face. Yeah, but I mean, I guess just to talk about why this is so annoying is that you just see it all the time. That's why. You just see it in every manga ever, where there's so many different ways you could bring this to a head, you know? And there's so many different ways that you could show it. But it's just this, you know?
Yeah, why couldn't... I wish that there was more of a parallel between Yuna and Rio. So Yuna confessed to Rio and got rejected. I wish that Rio would suck it up and confess to Akari and get rejected. Instead, he, like, kissed her, which isn't the same as a confession.
It's not. Actually, yeah, that would make sense. And then, like...
I think that I'm a better author than the very well-written Iosaki Saka.
I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I'm happy to keep on reading this series, I guess, but...
And I know that I like it. I like parts of this series going forward still. but it does get boring at a certain point. With a lot of shoujo manga do this, though, par for the course.
This series goes on for like 10 more volumes, and I'm already not excited because that's the thing about this. It's what I was talking about before where I was referencing all those other manga. It's the idea of just romance is insanity. It's so hard to think of a series where it's just about the romance. It's just about the feelings. But that's what this really was, where it was just really zeroed in on the way each character feels. But then it just, after a while, it just starts feeling kind of inane, where you're just like, what else? Like, is there anything else going on in your life at all? Like, you're going to school. Is it school things? Anything? And then you go to the school situation, and it's just more romance, stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're right, because in the last volumes, there was the family drama, which was great. There was more going on with the romance, like a whole confession.
There was the whole plot line about Akari's old crush and how she resolved that. That was really interesting.
Yep. Studying, even they had that. They had like making a study guide for Yuna. That's something.
And if you were going to say like what else happens in this chapter, you'd say, oh, well, there was the group date, and there was some classmate squabbles, and then there was the marathon. But those really just felt like window dressing.
I mean, the same thing happens over and over. And we already knew it all at the beginning. Okay, the only thing that's actual news is the very last like 2 pages.
Yeah.
And that was a frustrating last 2 pages. So,
yeah.
And where's our bread? Where's our last thin slice of the Sammy?
Should we end this on a positive note? Do you have any like final?
Yeah. Let me look at my notes. Oh yeah. Okay. So you know how at the end of the volume she wrote something about how she read an article, I think, that was about the youth of today.
You're talking about the sidebar notes from the mangaka, which I love the sidebar notes.
Yeah, it was like author's note.
Yeah.
They're so cute. I love hearing about like her learning / not using her like tablet or whatever.
Because she's a traditional artist.
Which is super cool.
The sidebars in like shoujo manga always tend to be my favorite part. I'm specifically thinking back to Arina Tanemura, the artist for Full Moon no Sagashite. She always would write about what video games she was playing at the time, but it was written so long ago that she was talking about playing like Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy X, like the old like a Tales game, so it's super nostalgic, but just also really fun to whenever you reread it. Do you read the author's notes as you read, or do you go back after you finished it to read them?
Yeah, they're actually pretty confusing to read as you read, although sometimes I do, because I'll like literally turn the page and then I'll have forgotten what happened in the story. So normally I try to go back.
Right? Because the way that a manga is formatted, you're turning pages pretty quickly and you're really flowing through the characters, what's the action, But then when you get to those author sidebars, it's like a paragraph. You gotta stop and read it, and it feels weird.
And I mean, it's a whole story. She'll tell you about her whole entire day, what went wrong, or whatever, or like her experience at a Shiny concert, which is just, it's great. It's great to hear about the author, but yeah, Normally, I would go back and read them afterwards. I can't read them while I'm reading.
I'm the same way. I think I don't think we've ever talked about that before. I think it's funny that we have like the same technique, basically.
Well, and that's the thing. Sometimes I make the mistake and I'll be like, okay, I'll just read it right now. And I do get lost in the story after that, so I have to go back.
So you were talking about the final end note, or author note, which was about the article.
Final author's note. She read this article about how the youth of today have no motivation. And actually, that article was written like 30 years ago, so this has been something that all of like the past generations say about the newer generations. And all I really thought was like how I really admire the youth of today. I think that they're just like a great generation, the generation below me.
You're like a Gen Z fan? That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I see problems with apathy, but overall I think they're pretty, they're sweet, they're caring. and they like to have fun, which I think is cool.
I like these sweeping generalizations about this generation, but they're like the kind of sweeping generalizations that are kind of nice, you know.
You know, positive ones.
Yeah, I got a little chuckle out of that end note too, though, and it's true. The older generation always gets grumpy. Do you think we'll get grumpy when we get a bit older?
I hope not. Although I do worry about how technology is affecting the youth these days.
I can't wait to wait 30 years and then read that in an article, right?
And that was my positive piece of bread to go on top.
Okay, let's revisit this again in volume 4 where hopefully this love quadrangle will be, ironed out a bit.
Mm-hmm.